From the advent of the first flying boats, the airplane was destined to be an indispensable and integral element of the Navy's logistic mission. Aviation's speed and versatility enabled the projection of United States naval forces on a global scale never before imagined. The role of naval transport aircraft during World War II set the pace for generations to follow. The U.S. Navy's presence in Europe after the Allied victory established the precedent for a permanently forward deployed Fleet Support Squadron. On December 3, 1946, Utility Squadron 4 was commissioned in London, England. Together with detachments in Port Lyautey, Morocco, and Naples, Italy, BRU-4's R-4D Skytrain and JRB Expediter aircraft serviced the fleet in the Mediterranean and European theaters. In the years to follow, U.S. Navy men and women maintained several different squadrons and aircraft types to meet the needs of overseas logistic support. The first C-130F Hercules, Bureau number 149790, arrived in theater under the command of VR-22 Detachment Rota Spain on February 28, 1962. 3 more C-130s were added to the squadron's inventory in June of the same year. On October 15, 1984, VR-24 Det Rota was disestablished and Fleet Logistics Support Squadron 22 was commissioned. Nicknamed the Med Riders, VR-22's primary mission is to conduct medium-lift logistic flights in support of the 6th Fleet in the Mediterranean, European, Southwest Asian, and North African theaters. This includes the transportation of priority and routine cargo, mail, and personnel to wherever operational requirements dictate. The squadron's secondary mission began in 1985 with the delivery of 2 KC-130F tankers tasked with meeting 6th Fleet's increased need for aerial refueling assets in the Mediterranean. With the unparalleled ability of the KC-130 to refuel both rotary and fixed-wing aircraft, the Navy's only land-based aerial refueling squadron provides immediate medium-range refueling service to both U.S. and NATO forces, transferring well over 1 million pounds of fuel annually. Utilizing the complete versatility of the Hercules, the Med Riders are also tasked with paradrop and airdrop training for Navy, Marine, and NATO forces. Additionally, VR-22 is always ready for a quick response medevac support throughout the theater of operations. Throughout its history, the men and women of VR-22 have been at the logistic forefront of U.S. naval interests in the European, Mediterranean, North African, and Southwest Asian theaters. Immediately prior to the disestablishment of VR-24 Det Rota and the commissioning of VR-22 in 1984, squadron personnel were actively supporting U.S. Marines as part of the multinational peacekeeping force deployed to Beirut, Lebanon. Beginning in 1985, aerial refueling support was supplied to annual multilateral exercises such as Dragon Hammer and Display Determination, further strengthening NATO alliances. Humanitarian assistance was rendered by Med Rider personnel to Tunisian flood victims during Operation Atlas Rail in the spring of 1990. In May of 1990, when civil war erupted in the West African nation of Liberia, VR-22 flew the first sortie into the country's capital of Monrovia to spearhead Operation Sharp Edge. Creating a logistic lifeline stretching over 2,100 miles, the Med Riders flew over 200 sorties to support U.S. Marine and Embassy personnel stationed in the ravaged city. VR-22 also has the proud distinction of flying the last flight out of Liberia at the conclusion of Sharp Edge in February of 1991. On August 4, 1990, VR-22 landed its first aircraft in the sands of Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. Operation Desert Shield was only hours old, and the Med Riders had begun their first of numerous around-the-clock flights to initiate the Navy's logistic effort in the Red Sea. The Med Riders' role in the massive international mobilization found VR-22 aircraft flying at an unprecedented rate. On one day in September of 1990, squadron aircraft were simultaneously flying over 4 continents: Asia, Africa, Europe, and North America. The magnitude of this feat is underscored by the fact that it was done with only 5 available aircraft. As Desert Shield turned into Desert Storm, VR-22 increased its already furious tempo and provided vital in-flight refueling to attack and fighter aircraft destined for the war-torn skies over Iraq. With the conclusion of Desert Storm, the Med Riders focused their assets toward eastern Turkey and the Kurdish relief effort in Operation Provide Comfort. The collapse of the Eastern Bloc created new opportunities and destinations for VR-22. New pins were placed on the map as Med Rider Hercs landed in Romania, Bulgaria, and Czechoslovakia as part of its ever-broadening horizon of fleet support. Serving as testimony to the squadron's tradition of outstanding maintenance and longevity of the Hercules, Aircraft 790 was retired to the Boneyard at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base in June of 1992 after 30 years of service. Scaled down to 3 KC-130Fs by July of 1992, the Med Riders began logistic support missions into Western Italy on behalf of Operation Provide Hope. Despite diminished assets, the Med Riders still transferred over 1 million pounds of fuel and continued to deliver high-priority cargo throughout their wide domain at pre-scaled-down rates. The men and women of VR-22 enjoy a rich and distinctive history. They played a vital role during a dynamic era marked by political upheaval and humanitarian outreach. Their C-130s supplied the fleet in familiar Mediterranean ports such as Palma, Marseille, Antalya, and Alexandria, and more distant destinations, from the equatorial forests of Gabon to the northernmost fjords of Norway, across vast deserts to Bahrain and beyond to Guam. Most importantly, the millions of pounds of cargo, mail, and fuel were delivered over the millions of miles mishap-free.
The Navy has always set stringent guidelines for safety to minimize the loss of lives and equipment. In keeping with these standards, around 3:40 p.m. Friday, January 30th, Fleet Logistics Support Squadron 22 achieved an impressive 50,000 hours of mishap-free flying. We spoke to Commander Huffman, commanding officer of VR-22, about this achievement.
Safety, this happens to be an aviation event. 50,000 hours accident-free flying over 16 years. And obviously it's very commendable. Not all that many squadrons achieve that safety record. But safety is not just part of the aviation field. When you have a squadron, obviously if it's an aviation squadron, you're going to fly. Safety is probably, in that aspect, very visible. But you also have to identify ground safety is very important, and we do that. You have to identify recreational safety, safety at home, and we do that. We try to group it all together as a safety package. If you just concentrate your efforts into the aviation safety or ground safety, I think you're missing a lot. You have to have a very well-balanced safety program that covers all aspects of safety, not just aviation. And I think if you can do that and get people thinking of safety in everything they do, like getting in the car and buckling up, or you know, drinking. If you drink, drink responsibly, or if you don't, make sure there's someone here that can take care of you. Just to start thinking in that vein contributes to the overall squadron safety program, and that just moves out to the aviation safety and recreational safety and ground safety. I think that's important. We stress that.
Along with the 50,000 hours of safe flying, VR-22 has received numerous awards for maintenance and safety. We also talked with Lieutenant Mike Palmer, the pilot of the C-130 Hercules that surpassed the 50,000 hour mark.
Well, I felt privileged that I was given the opportunity to fly as the instructor on the flight. That it's a matter of a combination of teamwork. As we all know, being in the Navy, that it's Navy teamwork that does it. And it's been approximately 16 years. Actually.